Thank you so much for joining us today. Yes, my name is Allison Robinson. I am with the Vale District Office Bureau of Land Management. I am the district's HR liaison, and I did just accept a promotion, and I will be starting with the Bureau of Reclamation this coming Monday as an HR specialist. This presentation is, like we've said before, very in-depth and it's very special, very near and dear to my heart. I really believe in the importance of helping people understand USA jobs and get through the process. So it's my hope that with this presentation today, you will gain the tools that you need to be able to present the same type of materials to your audience and help them get through USA jobs. So this presentation, I'm going to give it as if you were someone trying to apply inside of USA Jobs. And please feel free to take notes on my style if you like what I do, but it's really important that the message gets through and the information is passed along correctly so that people can apply and successfully get through USA Jobs and hopefully get those federal positions that they want. So, like was mentioned earlier, please hold questions until the end, and I will be happy to go in depth. And with that, let's get started. So, very first page, welcome, navigating USA jobs and the application process. This page is intentionally left blank because I want you to be able to fill it out with your information. Normally, I have our BLM logo right here and my information, but this is yours to hopefully be able to work with a little bit. Now onto the agenda. There's two sections to this presentation. Section 1 is an introduction, then we will go over appointment types, pay, and jobs. Then we will dive into USA Jobs itself, go over account creation, how to log in, resumes, common resume mistakes, and we'll go over supporting documentation. Section 2, I'll show you how to search for jobs in USA Jobs, how to save jobs and save searches, how to apply, how to update your application, how to check your application status, and what to expect after you apply. Then we will review, and then we will take questions, and I'll also have my contact information for you. So normally before the disclaimer, I have an introduction for myself. I took that out since this will be a blank slate for you, but just kind of introduction for everyone for you. Like I said, I am with the Vale District Bureau of Land Management until this coming Monday, and then I will be with the Bureau of Reclamation. Before that, I started my federal career in 2019 with Vale District BLM, and I started actually in fire. I started in fire dispatch, moved to fire engines, back to dispatch, and then in 2022, I took this role as HR liaison for the district. So just a disclaimer for everyone. This presentation is not a guarantee of referral, job offer, or promotion. But I do have a commitment to you. My commitment, this presentation will be lengthy. We will take breaks if needed. If you need to, please feel free, stand up, move around, stretch, go to the side of your room, whatever it is that you have to do. I am going to throw so much information at you. I mean a ton, but each piece of information is going to be important, relevant, and useful, I promise. And this presentation, when I give it to applicants, it is meant to be interactive. I ask them that if they have questions or comments to please voice them. However, this audience is a little bit different, so please, like we said, hold your questions until the end. But when you present this, I do recommend that you have this presentation be interactive. I would not be where I am today without all the support and help that I received, and I am here to return that favor and keep paying it forward. Okay, so let's talk about hiring paths. First and foremost, there's a lot. Competitive service, Schedule A, VRA, student and recent graduates, and then open to the public. How do you know the hiring path? It's going to show you on USA Jobs. So you can find it listed as a filter inside of USA Jobs, and they all have these specific icons next to them too. And the hiring paths will also be visible on the announcements for positions themselves. Open to the public will look like this. It is for anyone who is a United States citizen or national, and they can apply to these positions. Competitive service, you must be a current or former competitive service federal employee to apply. So that means that you already have had to work for the federal service in the competitive capacity. Recent graduates, designated by a little cap here, you must have graduated from an accredited institution within the last 2 years, or if you're a veteran, you must have graduated within the last 6 years. Students, you can see a little diploma here. You must be currently enrolled in an accredited institution in order to apply, and I have a link here for more information about that. Schedule A is for individuals with disabilities. You must have a documented disability and be under the care of an MD for that disability. And there's more information about that hiring path right here. Veterans, you must be a veteran. And again, more information right there for you. Okay, let's talk about appointments. So we talked about the hiring methods. Now let's talk about appointments that are available. Temporary appointments, permanent appointments, career internships, term appointments, and temporary promotions. That is so many different styles, right? How do I know what the appointment type is? Again, it's going to list it for you right on USA Jobs, and there will even be snippets of information inside of the announcement about the position. So a good example here, you can see this right here is a temporary appointment. It says 1039 hours, and we're going to get into that. Temporary appointments are typically not to exceed 1,039 hours of work. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you can see different designations right inside of USA Jobs. Okay, career internships. These are also called career development positions. They are 40 hours per week, and they're also referred to as student trainee positions. They are eligible for leave, health, retirement, vision, and dental benefits, and participants must be current students, and they have to sign an internship agreement. After successful completion of the internship, that individual may non-competitively be converted into a permanent appointment, which is like the dream for a student. It's such a great path to take if they can find these opportunities, and it's a wonderful way to get their foot in the door. So a really good example of this could be, let's say John is a full-time civil engineering student at the University of Idaho. He accepted a student trainee civil engineering position, and he now is under an agreement and may potentially be converted after the completion of his internship into a permanent position. Next up, temporary appointments. We talked about these just a minute ago. So these are temporary employees. They do work 40 hours a week, and they are typical for many entry-level positions. They operate on what is called a 1039. This means that their appointment is not to exceed 1,039 hours of work. This is just 1 hour shy of 6 months of full work. And temporary appointments may be extended with training hours. These employees are eligible for leave, health, vision, and dental benefits, but only while employed. A good example of this could be Sarah. She has accepted a position as a wildland firefighter for engines, but the length of her appointment is not to exceed 1,039 hours. She's a temporary employee. Another example of appointments for us to look at, temp promos, again, 40 hours a week. These are a temporary assignment of an already existing federal employee into a higher graded position. So the employee continues to receive benefits and is now paid the wage of the higher graded position. These appointments are typically not to exceed 120 days, and at the end of the temp promo, the employee returns to their official position of record. Next up, term appointments. These are known as non-status appointments. They are, again, 40 hours per week. They usually last up to a year, but may be extended up to 4 years. And they have comprehensive benefit packages just depending on the nature of the appointment. Next up, permanent appointments. We'll talk about PSEs. These are permanent seasonal employees. Again, 40 hours per week. And what's different between this and a temporary employee is that they are guaranteed at least 6 months for work. So remember, temporary employee, 1039, 1 hour shy of 6 months. PSE employees are guaranteed at least 6 months of work. However, they are going to be in what's called non-pay status for a portion of the year. And this can be a minimum of 2 weeks up to a maximum of 13 weeks. And they are eligible for, again, leave, health, vision, dental, and retirement benefits. Next, more permanent appointments, PFT. This is a permanent full-time employee, 40 hours per week. They do not have any non-pay status at any time throughout the year. They are always on and eligible for leave, health, vision, dental, and retirement benefits. Now I want to talk about pay scales so that everyone understands that. The majority of what you will see in the federal government is going to operate on what's called a general schedule level, a GS level. And the requirements for that are dependent on the actual grade and the general, specialized, and education requirements. The higher you go on the GS level, the more requirements you're going to see for general, specialized, and education. GS ranges from GS1 all the way up to GS15, and there are steps within each GS level. And as you progress up in the grade level, the qualifications for those positions, of course, increase as well. Now I want to talk about steps within each grade level. There are multiple steps within each grade level, and step levels may increase with supervisory approval as your time in a position progresses. Step 2 to 4 comes available 1 year at the prior level. Steps 5 to 7 come available after 2 years at the prior level, and steps 8 through 10 come available after 3 years at the prior level. Okay, ton of information, right? Already, right off the bat. Where do I even begin? Where do I apply for these positions? On USA Jobs. Go to Google, type in USA Jobs. I have the link right here as well. You must create an account before you can apply for any federal jobs. To do that, go to USA Jobs and click Create Profile. That will take you to this second screen where you will create an account. And throughout this presentation, I will take a step back and hand you some pro tips, something that will help you through this process, the secret sauce. Here's your first pro tip: account creation. Hiring managers will be able to see the email address that you provide. Make sure it's appropriate. Do not use an inappropriate email or an email that's unprofessional. From there, you're going to need to confirm your email address. The system will email you a link to confirm and use that link to verify. After that, you need to create a password for yourself. The password has to be at least 12 characters, preferably longer, and it cannot have any common phrases or repeating characters. After that, the system is going to want to authenticate you. There's a few different options: face or touch, app authentication, text, calls, and backup codes. I personally recommend texts. I find them to be the easiest way. After that, the system will prompt you to create your profile. In your profile, you will want your name, address, phone number, citizenship, any prior federal service, and any prior military service. After you create your profile, you're going to be routed to your main dashboard. This is what your main dashboard looks like. This is where you will spend the majority of your time, and it's very important to get familiar with this dashboard. Now that we have set up our account, now it's time to make our resume. In order to do that, what I recommend is that you go into your USA Jobs dashboard and click the Documents section, which is at the top right here. It will take you to your resume section. From there, you now have the option to upload or build a resume within the Documents tab. You cannot apply to a position without a resume, and you can store up to 5 different resumes in your Documents tab. Little pro tip that I'm going to throw in there for you. I want you to take everything that you've been taught about traditional one-page resumes and forget it. Toss it out of your mind. Never use it again when it comes to applying to a federal position. When you're first starting out, I strongly, strongly recommend that you build a resume rather than uploading. This is because when you build inside Resume Builder, it prompts you to include required information that may have otherwise been missed. If you've been with the federal workforce for a while, or if you're looking at a much higher level permanent position, then I recommend that you upload. Okay, more pro tips here. There is a lot of required resume information that you have to include. Your formal job title, employer name and address, your start and end date in months and years, hours worked per week, example for that, 20 hours per week, 40 hours per week, your salary, a good example, $35,000 per year, $12 per hour, maybe it was just a stipend, so $2,000 stipend, or without compensation if it was an unpaid experience. You also need to include your supervisor name and their contact information, as well as your job duties. If you have worked in the federal service previously, you're going to need to use the OPM title, series, and grade of your position. And many job announcements are now requiring an SF50 if you have worked in the federal service previously. If you have not, don't worry about an SF50. You don't need that document. You don't have one yet. But if you have worked federally prior, you will probably need your SF50. More pro tips for you. You need to have the format of your resume absolutely dialed in. If your resume is missing the information that we just talked about, even just one component of it, your application will not advance. So I always recommend check the required document section of the announcement to verify what needs to be in the application and follow the parameters that I just outlined for you. More pro tips, what not to put on your resume. Do not put any personal identifiable information like your social security number, photos of yourself, or any other personal information like your gender, religious affiliation, age, any of that. All right, now I'm going to show you how to build a resume. So we have gone into our dashboard and we have gone into documents and we are going to select build resume, this little wrench icon right here. So go upload or build, and then instead of selecting upload, select build resume. From there are 4 sections in Resume Builder that you need to complete: work experience, education, references, and miscellaneous, which includes job-related training, language skills, additional information, that type of material. Your resume is not complete until all 4 sections of this are finished. Now, this is what Resume Builder looks like a little bit. I'm going to help you and show you kind of some navigation around it. Use the previous icon to go back, the next icon to go to the next section, and only click Finish after you've completed all 4 sections. This part can be a little misleading. It can seem like, oh, I've finished this page, I need to hit Finish. No, only hit Finish after you've completed all 4 sections. So to begin, you're going to name your resume and follow the system prompts. You will then be prompted, of course, for the first section, which is work experience. Hear me now. This is the most important section for you to have dialed in. For work experience, you're going to need to add employer name and address, your job title, employment dates, hours worked, as well as salary, supervisor name and phone number, duties, accomplishments, and related skills. During this section of your work experience, I challenge you to think really, really big. Do not sell yourself short during this section. Work experience does not have to be paid experience. Volunteer work, unpaid internships, working for family, even being a stay-at-home parent, they all count as work experience, and those type of items just need to be listed on your resume as without compensation. Really take your time with this section, and remember, forget everything you've ever been taught about one-page resumes when it comes to applying to federal positions. Take it all out of your mind. You do not want this to be short. You are allowed up to 5,000 characters to describe your experience per position. Use that space. Paint the picture and go into detail and expand upon your duties, experiences, and skills. It's your responsibility to take a topic and expand upon it. I want you to paint the picture with an outcome, a purpose, and a contribution. I know that's easy to say, but I want to give you an example as how to put that into living practice. Here's an example topic for us. I have strong customer service skills. Okay, that is not sufficient for a federal resume. We need you to expand and include outcome, purpose, and contribution. Instead of saying strong customer service skills, think about expanding it and creating that story of a contribution. I listen to understand, not just to respond. I frequently follow up and touch base, close loops, provide status updates, remain accountable and take responsibility. I provide answers and recommendations. I remain positive and organized. I respect and appreciate others. This paints the picture of how I give strong customer service skills. I don't just say that I give strong customer service skills, I show. Okay, next up. After work experience, the system will prompt you for education. During this section, you are going to need the school name or program name, the address, the diploma, degree, or level attained, as well as the completion date. Now, if you're a student and you're still working towards a degree, that's wonderful. Just enter your expected graduation date. From there, the system will want your references. You're going to need your reference's name and job title, their phone number, the employer name, and the reference's email. After that, you will have a section for miscellaneous. And you can include job-related trainings, language skills, organizations and affiliations, publications, and any type of additional information that may be relevant to the position you're applying to. Little pro tip for you here, some great things to add and additional information, computer programs that you're efficient in, tool use, especially if you're applying for a natural resources position where you're going to be out in the field a lot and using tools, school sports, and other outdoor activities like hunting, especially if, again, you're applying for a position in natural resources that is field going. Also, leadership and teamwork activities are great to highlight as well. Okay, next up, uploading a resume. If you would still rather upload a resume, or if you have been in federal service for a while, then of course I recommend that you create your own working resume and upload it yourself. To do that, click on the blue plus sign, and then rather than build a resume, click upload resume. And again, please remember, we do not recommend uploading a resume if you are new to federal service. Okay, now let's talk about some common resume mistakes. First mistake, not including all of your work experience. And I mean all of it, all of it. Remember, forget everything that you've been taught about one-page resumes when it comes to applying to federal positions. Your resume needs to show all of your work experience. It doesn't matter if it feels long-winded. For example, my resume is 12 pages. They want to see front to back my experience. Show them your experience. Another mistake, not including the number of hours that you work per week. Remember, this is another item you have to include on your resume or else it won't make it through. You have to include those hours. So example, 40 hours a week, 15 hours per week, along those lines. Next up, not including the to and from dates of your positions that you've worked. You have to include the dates in months and years of your positions. So for me, for example, HR liaison 6/2022 to present, forestry technician, fire dispatch 5/22 to 6/22, and I was also dispatcher 5/21 to 11/21. Next mistake, not tailoring your resume to match the announcement. Inside of each announcement, and we're going to go into detail about this, is a section called Specialized Experience. It's typically hidden within the qualifications. And inside of that, it's basically your golden ticket as to what they're looking for, the skills that that position is needing. You can take that information and you can tailor your resume to include specific experiences that you've had with those items. And it's just fine to have a different resume for every position that you apply to. So a little pro tip here on specialized experience. If you Control F on an announcement and search specialized, it's going to highlight these specialized items that they're looking for. So for this position, I can see that they're looking for specialized experience in teamwork, working in stressful conditions, use of hand and power tools, knowledge and safety practice and procedures. I can now tailor my resume to demonstrate the experience that I've had in those areas previously. Okay, more mistakes. Not listing the duties of your position, also known as specialized experience. You must describe the duties of your position in length. Paint the picture. Another issue, failure to submit supporting documentation. If you have a high school diploma or a GED, you should upload it. If you have a degree or you're working towards one, you should upload your college transcripts. And I want you to be aware that unofficial transcripts are totally acceptable. You do not have to get official transcripts. A lot of those your institution will actually charge you for, and the federal government doesn't want you to have to go through that. Unofficial transcripts are totally fine to share and upload. If you've had prior federal service, you may also need to upload items like your IQCS or an SF50, but you don't need to worry about those items if you've never had prior federal service. All right, let's talk more about supporting documentation and where it goes. So in your dashboard, in the Documents section, and then in Other, is where you would upload these items. So good things to upload, like we talked about, high school diploma or GED, college transcripts, even if you haven't graduated yet, or even if you only have a handful of credits and you don't plan on graduating, any certifications that you have, and then of course, if applicable, if you are a current federal employee, SF50 and IQCS, if you have one. All right, let's talk about one more item, cover letters. Including a cover letter is totally a matter of personal preference. They are not required to apply to a federal position. If you choose to do so, ensure that it is grammatically correct and sound and very well structured before you upload it. And you can upload a cover letter into your Documents and Other tab. Now, after all of that, we are finally ready to search for a job. We're not going to apply yet, but we're finally ready to search for a job. To do that, go to the USA Jobs homepage, and you're going to want to search either with keyword or location. If you know the specific location that you would like to be at, one of the quickest ways is to search for that location specifically. So a good little example for you here, I typed in Vail, Oregon, and then from there, it populated the cities, and I selected Vail. And then after that, it gives me the option to see the 25-mile radius of jobs around Vail. But when I was doing this search, I was wanting to say, nope, I know that I just want Vail. I only want Vail. So what I do is I remove the 25-mile filter. After that, you can filter it even more by department and agency if you know that you want to work for a specific agency. So for me, for this practice, I was just looking strictly at Vail District BLM. So I went and filtered it by agency, Bureau of Land Management. What that does is narrows your search down even more. And another item that I recommend unless you are looking for a remote position is to exclude remote jobs in your filter as well. That is because if you don't, you will be inundated with every single remote job that the agency is offering. This can make it very difficult for you to locate non-remote positions if that is what you're interested in. Your final filter is going to look something like this. Your location, 0 miles, the agency, and excluding remote jobs. And under that, it's going to give you a list of every single announcement that is open that you can apply for at your desired location, which looks like this. I want you to be aware that there are many other filters that you can utilize, however. Hiring path, pay, like we talked about, department and agency, but you can also filter by desired grade level, work schedule, appointment type, security clearance, lots of filters for you to work with. And they are all on the right-hand side right here. Okay, from there, we have now been able to see every single position that's available within the area that we're interested in working. I highly recommend that you save jobs that you're interested in using the yellow star, its little save icon. You can find it here, and then in the announcement itself, it's going to be directly under the apply button. If you save a position, that means that it will store it to your dashboard and you can keep searching for other positions to apply to and come back to that one. After you save it, like I said, it's going to go to your dashboard and it will be housed in your saved jobs section. You can also set up something called saved searches, which I highly recommend. The system will email you whenever something you're interested in posts and is available for you to apply to. So go into saved searches and follow the system prompts to set up a saved search if that is something that you would like to do for yourself. All right. We've gone through, we've created our profile, we have our resume, we've searched for jobs, and we've saved jobs. Now we can finally apply to jobs. Some pro tips for you. Jobs can post at any time throughout the year on USA Jobs. Therefore, we really recommend that you search USA Jobs regularly and set up saved searches for yourself. An important thing to note, temporary fire positions typically post the fall or winter before the upcoming fire season. So for temporary appointments for let's say engine crew members for summer 2025, we're likely going to see those positions be advertised on USA Jobs in the fall and winter of 2024. More pro tips, all postings have closing dates. Pay attention to them and make sure that you don't miss your window. Some announcements are only open for a few days, and after that closing date has passed, you can't apply to the position anymore. There also may be an item called a priority consideration date, or the application may close when the system has reached 50 applications. Pay attention to these parameters, and if you see that type of parameter on an announcement, apply quickly so that you don't miss your window. I also want you to pay attention to the parameters of the announcement itself. Do you qualify? Have you the required education and experience? If you are unsure, I always, always, always recommend that you apply anyway. Give yourself the chance. The answer is always no, unless you ask. So if you're unsure, apply anyway, make them tell you no. And a good example is a GS3 just requires a high school diploma and 6 months work experience. Maybe the position is for a GS4 and you're not sure if you qualify, you should apply anyway. More pro tips. Some positions require that you have a minimum of 90 days of wildland firefighting. This is on the line, primary, rigorous firefighting, and some positions require that you have that prior to applying. Some, not all. Also, some permanent fire positions do have an age restriction. For primary firefighting, you must be 37 years or younger at the time of your first permanent appointment. This does not apply to temporary appointments, just permanent appointments. All right, let's talk a little bit more about what an announcement looks like so that you're familiar with an announcement. So there's always going to be a big blue apply button at the top, a summary of the position, an overview, the duties of the position, requirements, qualifications, and additional information. When you're ready to apply, click on the apply button and this will take you to the first section of the application. The first section is going to be your resume, but we've already done your resume. It's already in the system, it's already preloaded and ready to go. Select the resume that you want to use, and then select Save and Continue. From there, the system will give you the opportunity to attach additional documents. So any documents that you want or need to include with your application, this is where you would attach them. Go ahead and click through what you want to attach and then click the Save and Continue button at the bottom. From there, the system will prompt you to review all of your attachments. Really take a moment, make sure everything is there. You want all of your items to be in the correct place. You want to make sure that you've selected the resume that you want to use. And then after that, click I acknowledge that I've reviewed my resume and documents at the bottom. After that, the system will ask you for a demographic survey, and this is totally optional. You don't have to do this survey if you want. You can skip it and make your selection and click Save and Continue at the bottom. From there, the system is going to get a little legal on you, and it wants you to certify that your application is true and complete. Click the checkbox and then click Continue to Agency Site. After that, the system will route you to the external agency site that's specific to the agency that you're applying to. Your USA Jobs material is going to come with you. It will attach and it will say done when it has attached. After that, click Continue. From there, you're going to be given the chance to double check your biographic information, your name, address, that sort of information. And if you need to make any edits, you have to go back to USA Jobs and do so inside of USA Jobs and reapply for the position. From there, if the announcement has multiple grades or multiple locations available, it will ask you for your preferences. If given the opportunity, I highly recommend that you apply to every single GS level and click every location that you are interested in. Again, do not sell yourself short. Do not limit your opportunities. Make them tell you no. Always apply for everything that you can. After that, you will be taken to the assessment portion. Typically, you're going to see 3 to 15 questions for you to answer. This is a very important section, and you need to not sell yourself short. Okay, some pro tips here. This is an example of an assessment question for a temporary wildland firefighter. Indicate your level of experience, education, or training as it relates to strategies, tactics, and suppression methods used in containment and control of wildfires. And the majority of your answers are always going to be structured like this: multiple choice with an option ranging from I have no education, training, or experience in this task, all the way up to I am considered an expert in performing this task. Here's another great example. I have performed the following wildland firefighter tasks, and then it wants you to select everything that you have done. And another example, again, consistent with the I am an expert or I have no education, training, or experience, and where you fall within that spectrum. It's really important for you to take your time during the assessment and gauge the questions appropriately. A really important item for you to remember: do not be humble during your assessment. Being humble has caused many people to not advance in the application process. Be honest about your abilities, but never sell yourself short. Never be humble. After that, the system will prompt you to reattach your documents. Anything that has a red required next to it must be reattached during this time. To do that, click the drop down, and all of the documents that you had attached from USA Jobs will be available for you in that drop down. If you're missing anything, however, there's always an upload option at the very bottom of the page. Okay, lastly, you enter the review and submit portion of the agency application to submit your final application. You must complete the entire agency application process. When it's complete, you will know so because you will be routed back to USA Jobs and it will tell you that you have successfully applied. And you will see your application in your USA Jobs dashboard. Next to your application, it should say received. From there, you can update your application or edit it up until the closing date of the announcement. If you choose to update it, however, though, you must complete all of the steps that we just went through and go through the entire process all over again. Essentially, you have to reapply and complete every step that you've already done to overwrite your previously submitted application. All right. Oh, so much information. I know you guys are doing awesome. I appreciate you sticking with me. It's a ton of information, but like I said, it's all valuable. So I applied. Now what? You can check the application status of the position that you applied for. You go to your dashboard and go to your homepage, and in your applications tab, you will see everything that you've applied to. There will be periodic updates to the status of your application on the dashboard. However, you can do an even deeper dive, which I highly recommend, and you can click track this application. From there, it will route you back to the external agency site, and you can view or print your full application. You can see all of your documents, and you can see any notifications attached to the application itself. Here's what I need you to be prepared for and what to expect after you apply. It will feel like this. You will be a skeleton sitting on the couch, waiting and waiting and waiting. The process can take months, and I mean that, months. Do your best to be patient during this time. Be available by phone and email. If your application is moving forward, you will be contacted and you will be expected to perform the next steps. Next item that you should expect if you're moving forward is what's called a referral notice. Now, I do want you to know that you may or may not receive a notice of referral email from the USA Staffing Office. It looks like this. This is not a job offer. It will tell you if you have or have not been referred to the hiring manager. If you don't receive this email, it doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't been referred. If you do receive this email, it does not guarantee that a hiring manager will contact you. If you're not referred, you have rights when it comes to not being referred. Like I said, you may or may not receive notification email, but you always have the right to reach out to the announcement's specified HR contact if you have questions about why you were not referred. And to find that, go back to the original announcement that you applied to, and towards the very bottom of the announcement, you will see a how to apply section. And inside of that section, there's going to be agency contact information. So as you can see right here, there's an email right here. If I wasn't referred and I wanted to know why, I could reach out and email this inbox and ask why, and they could explain it to me. It's kind of a great learning opportunity if you don't get referred. However, if you are progressing, what to expect next is what we call an interest email. You must be available for emails and you must check your spam folder. If you're referred, a supervisor may email you and ask you if you're still interested in the position. This is because, most likely, remember, this process is very, very lengthy. It's probably been months since you applied, and they need to verify whether or not you're even still interested in the role. From there, you can also expect an interest call. So again, be available for emails, be available for those phone calls. If you're referred, a supervisor may call you and ask if you're still interested in the position. Same thing, remember, they need to verify your interest. It's probably been a long time since you applied. Pro tip for you, make sure that your voicemail box is set up, that it has an appropriate greeting, and that it is not full. You want to make sure that you can receive messages if you miss a call. Periodically check your spam folder for emails from hiring managers. And please note that hiring managers will move on quickly if they cannot get a response from you. Don't let these simple mistakes be the reason that you don't get the job. From there, what to expect: interviews. I need you to be available for phone calls. For entry-level positions, typically interviews are over the phone with a few basic questions. These are not normally scheduled in advance. For more advanced positions, we're looking at in-person, Teams, Zoom, or phone interviews, and these are normally scheduled in advance. More pro tip for you: interview prep. I want you to review the job announcement and become very familiar with the responsibilities of the role. You can't edit your application after the closing date. We talked about that. However, you can still view the body of the announcement, and that can help you prep for your interview. Go to your dashboard, click applications, then click on the plus icon next to the position title and click view full job announcement. Review the assessment questions that you were asked during your application. These type of questions may show up again in your interview. Review your resume and really think about your accomplishments. Practice mock interviews with someone and do some research. Get familiar with the office that you applied to. A tip about structure: an interview with the federal government is very likely to be structured around teamwork and communication, interpersonal skills, problem solving, resiliency, and position-specific items. A hiring manager may ask you resume questions. Tell me more about your last job. Getting to know you questions, such as, what's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? Tell me about yourself. Behavioral questions. Tell me about a time when you, or situational questions. If you were in the following situation, what would you do? The best way to prep for federal interviews is to use the STAR method. STAR. This is how you do it. Situation or task. Give some context of the situation or task. Action. Describe what you did. Result. Describe the outcome of the action. Your responses to interview questions should never be lies or exaggerations, rude or negative, opinions or any theoretical ideas, vague or unclear, impossible to tie back to your work experience, And then this is what I like to call interview gold. I highly recommend the following interview prep channels: Don Gorgovich and Cass Thompson. Both use the STAR method, have suggestions for frequently asked questions, as well as mindset. And I have included QR links for both of their channels here as well. And don't worry about taking your phones out and scanning these really quick. All of these slides will be available to everyone after the presentation. Okay, next tip, nervousness. If a hiring manager calls you for an on-the-spot interview, and if you feel unprepared in the moment, it's completely fine to ask if you can set up a time to call them back. Totally acceptable. It's normal to feel nervous about an interview. The hiring manager knows and they expect you to be nervous and to have an imperfect interview. They know they're hiring a person and not AI. But it is up to you to manage that nervousness and leverage it for your own benefit. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, first up, I want you to relax your body. If your body is tense, it's going to translate over during the interview. Even if your interview is over the phone, if you're tensed up, it's going to translate when you speak. So relax your body. I want you to slow down. It is so easy to get worked up, to speak too quickly, and then fumble over your words, especially when it comes to something that you're passionate about. But I really want you to take deep breaths, slow down, and be thoughtful with the language that you use. Next is to ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand a question that an interviewer asks you, it's completely fine to take a breath and ask them if they can explain it again or rephrase. I want you to listen very carefully during interviews, be engaged, and absorb the information and the questions from the interviewer as they come. Remember what you have to offer, and that will help you manage your nervousness, which I know seems easier said than done, but I'm going to go a little more in depth on this. I want you to remember that you can provide the skills that will help them. This will allow you to reframe your perception of the experience. You have what they need. You're applying because you can help them with what they need. Why would you ever be nervous to help someone? Why would you ever be nervous to contribute? You wouldn't be. You'd be excited. I have what they need. I'm going to help them. This is going to be great. And remember, everything that you want is on the other side of your fear. Adopting these types of mindsets are going to allow you to leverage your nervousness and use it to your own advantage. Okay, more pro tips, interview closing. They will ask you if you have questions. Always come prepared with questions to ask. You have questions. Why? Because you care. You care about the position. You care about the agency. You care about the mission. You have questions. You're invested. Next up, don't be afraid to ask, and this is important, when you will hear back about the results of the interview. I do not recommend that you ask how long it's going to take to onboard or when will I be in the office, because the process takes months. Don't ask them those questions, but it's completely fine to ask them when you expect that you will hear back about the results of the interview. Remember to thank them for their time and reaffirm your interest in the position. Interviews may sometimes end with what's called a soft offer. Be aware that it can take up to 2 weeks to hear back about the results of an interview. Another pro tip, a thank you email. Thank you emails are a matter of personal preference. If you choose to send one, I recommend that you do so within 24 hours of your interview. And the suggested format that I recommend is what I like to call the thank and connect. I want to thank them for their time, and I want to connect with something on them that we spoke about during the interview. Here is an example. Hi, Pat. I wanted to say thank you again for the opportunity to interview with you today. It was a pleasure to speak with you. I loved our discussion about innovation. I was very happy to hear that innovation is supported and encouraged in this role and that new tools are welcome. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you need any further information from my side. Once again, thank you for your time and consideration, Allison Robinson. This is the thank you email that I personally sent to my soon-to-be supervisor starting on Monday, after I interviewed for the promotion that I enter into this coming Monday. Okay, next up. If you progress past the interview, this is what you need to expect next. A soft offer. If you are selected, the hiring manager is going to notify you and provide what is called a soft offer. This is not a final offer of employment. It may sound something like this. You are my tentative selection for this position, and now the HR onboarding process needs to begin. If you still want the position, you need to accept the soft offer with the hiring manager. From there, you will be emailed a tentative offer letter. This is sent via email from the USA Staffing Office. This is not a final offer. It has a link inside of the email that you must click in order to accept the tentative offer. This email will also have a link that will take you to a portal called USA Staffing, which you will become very familiar with. And this is the portal where you complete onboarding forms prior to your first day and even after your first day. So a little more about USA Staffing, like we talked about, it's a portal to help you electronically fill paperwork. When you are in USA Staffing, I always recommend that you do so on a PC, a computer, and not your cell phone. A cell phone doesn't have the capability to pull up all of the aspects of USA Staffing and can make your paperwork incomplete. If you have any trouble with your USA Staffing forms, inside your tentative offer letter, there's going to be an HR contact, and you can always reach out to them if you're having trouble with USA Staffing or if you have questions. This is very, very important. Do not delay filling out your USA Staffing forms. Your offer may be revoked if you don't fill your forms out in a timely manner. This is what USA Staffing looks like. So it has a dashboard, and when you first start, there's going to be many what are called incomplete items that are designated by a red checkbox. After you've completed the item, the checkbox will turn green. You always have to start in the very first section, which is called the new hire questionnaire. The responses that you provide in this section will automatically be used to populate answers and fill in answers in the proceeding forms in USA Staffing. So you always have to start with the new hire questionnaire. From there, you can also expect a background investigation. This step can be very lengthy. It can take 90 plus days. Be available for phone calls and emails. If you are moving forward, you're going to be contacted and expected to enroll in a fingerprinting appointment at an approved federal facility. And all of those instructions will be emailed to you, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And you will also have to answer what's called an EKIP, which is an electronic background investigation questionnaire. From there, many positions, but not all, please be aware, not all, require a physical examination. If you have to do a physical examination for your role, this will be at no cost to you. And if it's required, and if your application is still moving through, you will be prompted to schedule and then go complete an examination. Failure to schedule or failure to be cleared will disqualify you from certain positions if this is a requirement. Next up, many positions do require a drug screen, but again, not all, but many. If your position requires a drug screen, it will be at no cost to you. And if it's required, you will be prompted to schedule and then go and complete your examination. Scheduling for drug screens is highly time sensitive. You must complete the drug screen within 48 hours of receiving notice to do so. If you cannot meet that 48-hour window, communicate that with your hiring manager and see if they can reschedule you. Failure to schedule or failure to pass will disqualify you if a drug screen is required for your role. And just a pro tip for everyone to be aware of and to remember that for a lot of states, marijuana is legal, but I would like to remind everyone that marijuana is still federally illegal. And even if you are in a state where it is legal, if you have marijuana in your system and require a drug screen, you will fail that drug screen. Okay, next up, finally, the official offer letter after all of that. This is sent via email from the USA Staffing Office, and again, has an embedded link that you must click in the email in order to accept the official offer. Inside of this offer, you're going to see your official start date, your salary, your supervisor information, and the email should also include some more items for you to do inside of your USA staffing. Okay, next up, what to expect. Arduous positions require what is called a work capacity test, also called the PAC test. Again, this is only required for arduous positions. It is not required for all roles. If required, this test is typically administered on your first few days on the job. During the PAC test, you wear a 45-pound vest and you must walk 3 miles in 45 minutes or less. If this is something that you need to do for your role, I highly, highly recommend that you prepare for this before you attempt it. Take my advice as someone who has done the PAC test previously. It's very difficult if you do not train for it. Train for your PAC test. If you do not pass, you will not be employable under many positions, especially if the PAC test is required for your position. Okay, let's talk about some do's. Pro tips here. Do accept the first offer that comes your way. You can always politely decline later if a better opportunity comes along. If a better opportunity is presented to you, accept the offer and then immediately contact the first hiring manager and explain that you are no longer able to accept the position that they offered to you. Employers will not begrudge you if you communicate changes with them quickly. Let's talk about some don'ts. Don't. All right. This is arguably one of the most important things that I want you to absorb and walk away from when it comes to this presentation. I really want you to take in these images that I'm about to show you. They need to be seared into your mind, and I need you to remember them. Don't do this. You see this? Don't do this. And look at this one. I mean, this one's even cute, right? Never do this. Ghosting is a real problem. Don't become one of these examples. This is Betty. Name change to protect identity. She accepted a position and stopped responding to her hiring manager. Due to hiring timelines, the hiring manager wasn't able to replace her. This is Archie. He accepted a position and stopped responding to his hiring manager. What Archie didn't know is that we could see he accepted a position with a neighboring district. The hiring manager was not left with enough time to replace him. This is Cheryl. She's even adorable, right? She was so pleasant during the onboarding process. But when it came time for her drug screen, she did not show up to her appointment and she stopped responding to the hiring manager. The state office revoked her offer. Don't ghost. The federal workforce is so small and so connected. People will remember if you don't communicate with them, and they will remember if you leave them hanging out to dry. If you ghost, there's a really strong likelihood that you will negatively impact that hiring manager and that they won't be able to replace you. They have already invested months into this process. Don't do that to them. So, always communicate with potential employers if your plans change. Okay, so much information, I know. Let's review really quick. Step number 1, we're going to go to USA Jobs, we're going to create an account, and we're going to sign in. From there, we will upload or build our resume. And remember, when you're first starting out, building is always recommended as opposed to uploading. If you have prior federal experience, then we recommend that you upload. But if you're first starting out, build, because it will help you not to miss all of those required information. Then you're going to upload all supporting documentation. From there, search for announcements and save announcements. After that, review the announcement's closing dates, requirements, and qualifications. Apply and follow all prompts, instructions, and requirements. From there, make any updates to your application before the closing date. Check your application status and be prepared for a really long wait. Dig in and be patient. Prep for an interview and be available by phone and by email. Be prepared for additional requirements like the interview, like your background, your drug screen, PAC test, accepting offers, onboarding materials, and USA staffing. And last up, never ghost. Communicate with hiring managers if your plans change. Before I take questions, I always offer my contact information to those that I present this to, and I encourage them to email me their resumes. I like to help them in any way that I can. But with that, that is the USA Jobs presentation. And I am so grateful for everyone's time and attention and happy to take questions.
You do have a few questions in the chat. The first one that I see is, do all new employees enter at a step 1?
It depends. So it really depends on how much experience that they have. If they if they have federal service previously too, that makes a big difference as well. You'll typically see most employees enter as a step 1, and GS level varies depending on experience and education level. Most of the time, yes, but there are a lot of different parameters, and your resume will help be that determiner, which is another reason why it needs to be so detailed and why you need to include things like salary.
There's also a second question after that, is that would a stay-at-home parent put 40 hours a week in their resume? We're talking about they're putting how many hours per week, or would more than 40 be appropriate?
I mean, I would argue that a stay-at-home parent definitely is more than 40 hours a week. So I would say that yes, I would put down more than 40 hours a week for being a stay-at-home parent and list all of my duties, skills, and accomplishments, and then be sure to mention, of course, that that was without compensation.
The next question that we have is approximately what percentage of jobs are virtual?
Oh, that's a great question. So when COVID hit, we saw a huge increase in the amount of virtual positions. Since 2020, that has diminished, and there has been a push to return to office. So fully virtual positions are definitely still on USA Jobs, but I would say that the majority of positions are not virtual.
Do you want me to continue reading off? There's a few in the chat.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody has a customer that signed up for the USA Jobs with a government email. They no longer have access to the email. And then the secondary sign-in option is a phone number that is also no longer available. How do they regain access to that account? They have information that
That
they do not want to lose.
that is such a great question, and I'm so happy that was brought in the chat. So this does happen quite a bit. So for various reasons, whether you take another position or maybe you're a permanent seasonal employee and have that non-pay status and you're not at work during a certain point of the year, you may lose access to a government email. So when you set up an account with USA Jobs, make sure that you do it with a personal email. And for anyone who has a USA Jobs profile right now that has done so with a government email, I highly recommend that you go into your profile today, right now, and change yourself to a personal email. For this specific person who no longer has access to that email and no longer has access to the phone number, there is there is help built in to USA Jobs for these type of items. And I can find those and send them to you, a little direct links to them a little bit later after the presentation today.
Sounds good. Sunshine, I'll get that over to you. Next question is what is the definition of veteran for federal hiring? If a veteran is coming off of active duty or separating from the National Guard, would they have an SF-50?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so if, and everyone should have access to the slides too. So the link that I've embedded for VRA appointments, you can click that and get some more in-depth information about veterans. But yes, anyone coming off of active duty or separating, yes, from like the National Guard, they should have not necessarily an SF-50, but for them it's called a DD-214. And anyone with federal service will be very familiar with that form, and that's one of the required forms to start a VRA appointment.
The next question, how can you build and customize your resume when you haven't gotten to the search section of the application?
Let's see. Can I get a little more clarification on that question? When you haven't gotten to the search section of the application, are you referring to?
The job search section.
Oh, okay. So when you're just thinking about like building a resume because you're getting ready to apply to anything, or?
I'm assuming they're talking about customizing your resume to the job. Because
Oh,
from your section, it says, you build the resume first and then you go look for the job. But yet you
oh,
say customize your resume to the job.
perfect. Yeah, after you build, thank you. After you build the bones of your resume, you can go back at any time in the resume builder and edit it and update it.
Thank you. Can you get certifications for training or ongoing educational credits or CESP? I might need some clarification on that myself.
Yeah, I'm not sure what CESP is. So can you get started training ongoing? Are you talking about like education grants for pursuing further education? Not
No,
grants.
not grants.
Okay.
Apparently, it stands for Certified Employment Support Professional.
Oh, okay. Well, there are quite a few programs with, and I just speak with my knowledge of the BLM that they don't they're not grants, but they function in the same way, where we award employees that have applied for the award an educational stipend. And within all of government agencies as well, there's a very large uh, push for personal development, and there's a lot of items that are available to support that.
I see. It looks like this person is looking for a credit or certificate for today's attendance. As
Oh,
far as I am understanding, I don't have that for this program, for this
uh,
webinar. Yeah.
I don't I don't have one. This is just a presentation that I do because I'm passionate about it and it means a lot to me. But I could definitely create one if you need that for work.
Yes, Clara, if you need verification of your attendance for this, email me after this. I'll put my email in the chat, and then we can probably get what you need. Uh, um, the
Okay.
next question is there a place to see a position description for a job that is not currently opening? Is a position description the same for every location? For instance, is a forestry tech the same for Vail as it is for another location?
Oh, that's a great question. So for everyone who's not aware, each position does have what's called a position description called a PD. And this is typically a 20 plus page document that shows all the parameters of the position and details, like step by step, what all of the responsibilities are of the position. These are not freely posted, unfortunately. They are considered government property, and once you become a government employee, you can have access to them inside of the system that we use to house secured documents, which is called EOPF. And that becomes yours when you onboard, and you can have access to your PD that way. But the best way to understand the roles and duties and qualifications of the position is to pick apart the announcement. Information from the PD is quite literally taken from the PD and put into the announcement. So you'll see it there. And to circle back to questions about whether or not like a forestry tech will be the same in Vail as it would be potentially in Medford, not necessarily. There are multiple PDs for one position. Like a forestry tech, I know of 4 different PDs off the top of my head right now. And the reason that is because their duties are different. For a long time, wildland firefighters were classified as forestry technicians and had very specific forestry technician firefighter PDs. Now they've transitioned into a true wildland firefighter PD, so we're not seeing that cross relation as much. But depending on your duties, you could have the same title as someone in a neighboring district, but have totally different responsibilities.
Uh, they there is a request to repeat about the step for people with disabilities. I'm assuming they're talking about Schedule A.
Yes, so Schedule A, again, I have a link embedded in there, and Schedule A is a great opportunity for someone with a documented disability that is currently under the care of an MD. That is very, very important. They have to be under the care of an MD. And what this does is if their doctor is willing to write them a Schedule A letter, then they can non-competitively be appointed into a position that they qualify for. But that letter has to come from their doctor, and it's in a very, very specific format. And I have examples of what that letter needs to look like verbatim, and I'm happy to share those examples with you.
And I'll also chime in that some of our workforce partners also help with that. Vocational rehabilitation
Yes.
provides Schedule A letters, and so
Oh,
that's
yes.
just to throw that out there as well.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have anything else? Feel free to come off mute and ask Allison directly yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But doesn't sound like we're going to get anything. Again, I wanted to say that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I had a question. Can you,
of course.
I know you said you would provide both your emails. So will you do that? I know you said it will be in the chat. Is it going to be in the chat, or can you send an email?
An email that you were in this training today?
Well, yes, and the question about disabilities, the person with disabilities that might be applying.
Yes. So after this, we'll get together offline. I think we'll send something that for all of you to show that you were here today, and I'll include the Schedule A example as well as the USA Jobs account help example.
Okay, that would be very helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you both.
of course.
Sorry
I
about
think
any grammatical errors too.
You're fine.
Well, like I said in the very beginning, some of you guys may have missed this. We put this on because the Northern Blues Restoration Partnership, which is a group of the natural resource agencies here in Northeast Oregon, including every alphabet agency, the Forest Service, BLM, ODF, ODFW, Fish and Wildlife, Water Resources, a whole bunch of you guys pulled together, and they decided that this was a really important topic to address as far as providing training for USA Jobs to provide that training to people who interact with job seekers and participants. And so that's kind of how this happened. I wanted to just shout out to the Web Center was a really big part of this, and a lot of other people. So thank you, Grace. Thank you, partners that I haven't mentioned yet. For those of you who are still here, we will be working on getting this presentation to you sometime soon. Allison did tell me that this is a really large presentation. The file size is large, so I will try to figure out some ways to get it to you, whether or not I need to convert it to a PDF in order to condense it down or something like that. If you guys have any more questions for us, you feel free to reach out to me, or my email is in the chat. You guys can also to chat with me. I can connect you with whomever you need to. For those of you who are not connected with WorkSource, I highly encourage you to get connected to WorkSource. They will do a lot of help as far as getting you connected to resumes, helping with your resumes, and anything else like that. But other than that, I have nothing else for you. That it's 2:30
Chris,
officially. You
I'll
guys have
add one thing in, taking advantage of like the last seconds, and you might have mentioned this at the beginning, but I did join us slightly late, is that over in October for the fall hiring window that Allison mentioned, we are going to be doing so Workforce Board and the Northern Blues Partnership, we are organizing a bunch of trainings, which is really what this has been the precursor for. So Allison, thank you so much. So if you know people that are going to be looking for federal jobs, we're going to be hosting workshops in Umatilla County, Wallowa County, Union County, and Baker County. The flyer will be coming from the Eastern Oregon Workforce Board, so please direct people there. We're going to have as many in-person events as we can, where we are going to help accompany people through this resume process and leverage this wonderful presentation that Allison put together today. Of course, if there are job seekers that are not able to attend, that is why you are all here, so you can kind of get this information and spread it around. But just wanted to send out a reminder to keep an eye out for those future events coming from the Workforce Board. Thanks,
Okay.
Chris.
Well, with that, I am going to end this webinar. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much, Allison.
Of
Yes,
course,
thank
thank you,
you.
everyone. Yes, absolutely. This was great.
Thank you.